Hey, DK told us that the injury he had in college to his neck was a blessing in disguise because he's not sure that he would have worked as hard if he would have been a higher draft pick. Do you think that's the case based on what you know about DK's work ethic?
I would not have thought that. All I've ever seen is a young man that's committed to being one of the best of all time, willing to do anything, run all day, meet all day, ask questions, take notes. So I think maybe that's his fuel. I'm sure he's fueled by the fact that he went where he went. But everything I've seen of DK is he's a special young man that wants to be great, and that would surprise me.
And then a question about your running backs. We know how Chris Carson and the rest of the crew kind of fit in, but with the question marks around Chris Carson, how does the tandem of Travis Homer and DJ Dallas work?
Well, first of all, they're literally two of the best buddies. They're always around each other. They love each other. Obviously, they have the ties going back to South Florida at the U. I thought DJ did a nice job last week for us, stepping up into that role. We weren't sure kind of what it would look like being in that position. I thought he did tremendous for the opportunities that he got. You know, punched the ball in the end zone a couple of times. Thought that was great. And for Travis to come up and fight through and play in that game was really impressive. We've always had depth at that position. We're always going to have depth with those guys. And it was cool to see those two guys. Again, whoever our guys come back as they're working their way back, we'll find out come game day. But whoever's out there, we know they'll be ready to play. Chad Morton does a great job with those guys, and they'll be ready to answer the call.
Joe.
Brian, is there a challenge of staying locked in when you're up? What was it? I mean, it was like 27-7 or whatever the score was, and then all of a sudden you maybe blink for a second and they're a 2-point conversion away from making it a one-possession game. How hard is it to stay locked in even when you've got a couple score lead?
Joe, for us, we're always locked in. I think the complacency from time to time can happen. Sometimes the players react more than we do, you know, that sometimes they're kind of aware of things. But we've always challenged our guys. I mean, you go back to look at most of our games. They're all coming down to fourth quarter plays, and regardless of what happens. So it's pretty easy for us to stay dialed in. I thought our guys did a nice job of knowing that the game swings quickly, and all of a sudden you go from, like you said, whatever it was, 27 or 30-7, and they're back at it. But we wanted to finish this past game against San Francisco because we didn't finish the one against Arizona the week before, and our guys did that. So we're always very dialed in. This is a quick strike league where teams can get on you and get back into the game quick, so you really don't have much time to relax.
Curtis.
Yeah, Brian, what was it like dealing with the shorthanded situation at running back last week? Basically, just having DJ there, and what's the closest you've ever gotten to running out of a position group before, and what was that like?
It was interesting, Curtis. I mean, we just really weren't sure how it was going to play out. You know, when you're dealing with those types of injuries and guys are working their way back and getting close, you're not really sure. You know, we had a handful of tricks up our sleeve. Other situations, probably it would go back to running out of receivers or only having two sets of receivers in situations. But that was a unique situation for sure. Again, I won't tell you what all of our solutions were, but we definitely had some tricks up our sleeve if we had to get to that. But DJ played great. Travis answered the call, and having Travis up made it much more comfortable for us going into the start of the game.
Ben?
Shotty, how is Russ's connection with DK and Tyler unique to each other, and then how do those connections complement each other in the offense you guys are trying to run?
You know, Ben, it's really interesting because what I notice about Tyler and Russ is they, other than in practice, I rarely ever see them work together. Meaning I don't see them spend time after. I don't see them spend time off season. You know, you see Russ's Instagram and whatever those things are, and he's throwing with guys, and you don't see him and Tyler do that. They've just played together for a long time. They feel each other. Whereas I think with DK it's very different. You see them working together all the time. You see them staying out here and being the last ones to leave. That's very unique. I think it's pretty cool. But to have a tandem like those two guys is pretty special. I can't think of any other situations in my coaching career where I have a guy go 15 for 200 and then the next week a guy goes 12 for, I'll botch his number, 160 or whatever it was. That doesn't happen very often. So I think it just makes it hard on the opponents. We've talked about that. It makes it hard on them to figure out how they want to stop us. But the question that I really loved that you asked was about the way the two guys work independently with Russ. It's very different, but the results are still pretty impressive. So I think that's a very cool story when you look at it.
Thank you.
Jackie?
Hey, Shotty, kind of following up to that, what kind of luxury is it having, a Tyler Lockett and a DK Metcalf, and just knowing the challenge it presents for opposing defenses when they have to really pick their poison as to who they have to match up against?
Jackie, what's different this year than last year is our ability to move DK around. Last year, again, they both were, Tyler obviously doing his thing. DK, you saw early on, was going to be a really good player. He hits his stride kind of late, but we can do so much more stuff with DK now. Year two, more comfortable in the offense, more comfortable running all the different routes that we do. I think that's what makes it hard on the opponent. It's not that the fact that the two guys are out there. There's other teams that have really good, tandems of receivers, but I think it's that we can move them around and put them in different spots. They're almost interchangeable in a lot of ways. But we feel very blessed to have those two guys. And, again, it's not just those two guys. That's what's crazy. I'm thrilled with what David Moore's doing. I mean, David Moore is having a terrific year. A couple big plays again last week for us, involved in the running game, a clutch touchdown catch for us down in the red zone. The tight ends are going to produce for us. So it's not only those two guys. They're the ones that put up some of the crazy numbers that people want to talk about, but we're very skilled, we're very deep, and I think that's what's hard for defenses.
And then second, it's supposed to be warmer in Buffalo than it is here in Seattle on Sunday, which is kind of crazy in the month of November. But when you look at that, is there any sigh of relief when it comes to, you don't have to game plan for inclement weather?
Well, selfishly, I always used to look because when I was on the field, I was like, damn, what am I going to have to wear? How many hand warmers, how many sweatshirts, things like that. Now that I'm up in the box, I'm like you guys, right? I'm up there, hey, where's my hot chocolate? Where's all this stuff? So I don't really worry about it that much. DK, I'm doing a meeting right now. Just leave me alone. But it's different. Going to Buffalo, I've played there a number of times being with the Jets, and it was always sometimes in December, late November, and it was pretty frigid, but we'll see. I'm not sure I believe it's going to be that warm in Buffalo. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
There's a high 66. That could be T-shirt weather.
That might be. That'll be. Hey, we're not going to complain. That's for sure.
All right, thanks.
Corbin.
Hey, Brian, I'm kind of building off Jackie's question a moment ago, talking about picking the poison against those two receivers on the outside. It's the first time in NFL history you've had two guys on the same team with over 550 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in the first 7 games. It had never happened before. As a coordinator, calling your plays, game planning, trying to figure out what concepts are going to work during the week, how much does that influence things when you know that opponents, they're not going to be in a situation where they have much flexibility to be able to double team either one of those guys?
Corbin, it's things that we're aware of. Sometimes they're on the same side. Sometimes they're on opposite sides. Sometimes DK's in the slot. Sometimes Tyler's outside. And for whatever reason, everybody plays us a little different. So there's always something on game day that we're like, we didn't really expect that, and we have to adjust a little bit. But what I'd love to do, talking about those two guys, what they're doing is amazing, but I want to give some love to the offensive line. I think those 5 guys up front, Corbin, are doing a tremendous job. The pass protection's been excellent. The stuff in the run game. For those 5 guys that are really a lot of new pieces, right? Brandon's new and D. Lou's new. What Ethan Posick has done has been so impressive. He's just mastered and really just taking control of that room. So they're the ones really allowing all this stuff to happen. They're the ones that are really the guys that are helping produce those big numbers. And so I couldn't be more pleased about the way those guys are performing up front. And they're truly the ones that are allowing the other skill guys to go and create those big numbers.
Greg?
Hi, Brian. At what point did you know you could move DK Metcalf around in more roles? Did that just evolve, or was there a point that you said, okay, let's load him up with a little more now?
Yeah, good question, Greg. It started last year, late in the year. We started moving him around quite a bit. In the playoffs, we moved him around a little bit more. And so it was something that we saw the success last year late. So this year it was from the time we left the building, hey, be ready to move around. He was always chomping at the bit. So he was ready for it. He's a tremendously smart football player. He really is. You know, he picks things up well. He makes adjustments quick on game day. He's to the point now where he's communicating things to the coaches to tell me about the way guys are playing him. You know, for example, we're playing Atlanta, going back his first game of his second year, and he's talking about the technique, the way the corners were playing him, and he's giving us suggestions and ideas of, hey, I can beat the guy on this. That's unusual for a young player. So it started last year, but it's grown exponentially with just his understanding of the game and his knowledge of the game of football.
Was that a factor in that fourth down touchdown in Atlanta, or that was?
No, it was earlier. It was earlier in the game, but he used that knowledge to set the guy up. He went inside, slipped the guy inside, thought he might jump outside, and was able to stack him. So to say we took advantage of it earlier in the game, but it was part of that play for sure.
It's only year two. You don't want to make him Jerry Rice in year two. What's his ceiling?
Man, you know what? I'm not going to put a ceiling on him, Greg. But I've done this for a long time, and a guy with that type of size and that type of speed and the work ethic. Although Jen's question kind of put me in the tank a little bit, you know, about he's not going to work hard. He's really good.
Thank you.
Bob?
Hey, Brian, kind of a goofy question, but you ever put 5 tight ends on the field before the way you did at the end of the game on Sunday?
Well, first of all, Bob, how did you notice that? That's pretty impressive. Second of all, we didn't even have that personnel grouping. Those are the things you talk about when you feel like the game's a little bit in hand. It was brought to my attention by our tight end coach, you won't be surprised, Pat McPherson, about maybe we can get all 5 tight ends in the game. And I told him, I said, okay, here's the deal. If we get the ball back and we have a chance to put the game away in victory, as long as you tell me where each and every one of them is playing, we'll let you do it. The funny thing, I'll call us out as a staff, is we run the first play, and here we are coaching a future Hall of Fame tight end to back up because Greg was way too close. He's obviously not been in very many victory formations, but he was way too close to the quarterback. So we're screaming at this guy to, hey, back up, back up. So, no, I've never done that before.
I noticed it in part. Rod Marr had a really good photo of it, actually.
Okay.
But going through the snap counts, when I saw the snap counts, and I realized that was when Luke and Colby.
Yeah, well, and then Nick Ballore has not talked to me all week. I mean, it's been kind of bad because that's normally one of his main plays, you know. Yeah. So he was screaming at Chad Morton, tell Shotty don't come down, stay up in the damn box because this is unbelievable. He's taking away my play time. So when you guys talk to Nick, tell him be nice. Be nice.
Great, thanks, Brian.
Brady?
Hi, Brian. What level of concern did you have going into the season with the offensive line, just given the new pieces that you had there, all of them, and the fact that you had a very atypical offseason?
I think the big question that we had was just how they would gel together, Brady. I mean, we felt like, you know, we really liked what we saw from Brandon on his film from New York. And then the minute you're around him in the offseason, you're doing these Zoom calls, you see how serious he takes it, how important it is to him. D-Lou, I think he's got unbelievable lower body strength and power. When you talk to Solari about him, he's been around some unbelievable offensive linemen. He's got some of those special traits. But again, the jump from college to pro is different. You know, your first game it's Grady Jarrett, and then the next week it's somebody different. So again, we knew he was a good player. How he would grab the system and everything we were doing without an off season, we didn't know. I talked about Ethan and what an amazing job he's done. We knew Dwayne would be Dwayne, and then Jordan, we were thinking ahead with Mike. We knew we wanted to play Jordan some early in games, even with Mikey being available, because we thought at some point that Jordan's going to have to play for us at one of the couple spots. And that's paid big dividends, because him going in there when Mikey had to go down for a little bit, he had experience, he had played, and we had complete confidence in him. So we felt good about the guys. It was just getting them pieced together in the communication, and I think that's kudos to not just Ethan, but them and their communication and the way they've picked up the system, along with Coach Solari and BC coaching them up.
And just with the pass protection, I mean, to the untrained eye, it looks better. We see cleaner pockets, and the numbers say that it's better. What are you seeing there specifically?
Really the same thing you guys see. There's more space. He's got more time. He's able to work through progressions. We rarely make mental mistakes. Opponents throw so many different looks at you. Those 5 guys rarely make mental mistakes. They rarely, if we're decked out to a guy, we're going to a specific player, and he comes, we normally get him accounted for. And I just think we're punching really well. I mean, part of pass protection is your ability to use your hands. Everybody looks at the feet and the athleticism to redirect, but it's a violent game where you're having to punch and slow these guys down, and then they don't come straight at you. They move and they stunt with people, and you got to be able to pass that off. I think the thing I've probably noticed the most, Brady, is just our ability, when we're really punching well, we protect really well. When we get a little sloppy with our hands go down, we carry them a little bit wide, then we get pushed back a little bit more.
Thanks.
All right, last one for Shotty. Joe Fan.
Mike, I saw you had one. I already asked one, so you can go ahead.
Great sportsmanship, great teamwork.
A lot of mine's pretty silly, so.
I saw you laughing. You liked the Ballore comment. I saw you laughing.
Oh man, no, that was pretty funny. Ballore got a first down catch though that day. That's got to be his
Well,
first
did you
touchdown.
guys see the celebration? I didn't see the celebration until afterwards, right? So the crawling forward and stuff. But he's one of my favorites. He's a hoot. He's a blast to have around and on the team. That was a really cool play because we were struggling. We started slow. We needed that third down conversion.
My question is, you've been around a lot of guys who've thrown the rock pretty well. What do you think of Pete Carroll's spiral?
Wow, that is interesting. I will say this: he works extremely hard at it. There's some wobble. There's some tight wobbles in there. I think when you come down the list of Wilson, Breeze, Favre, you maybe skip down a few spots before Pete's name gets mentioned in there. But the thing that's crazy is all the great passers I've ever been around, Mike, they all get treatment on their arm. You see them with ice bags and stuff. This guy's amazing. He never gets treated. So he must have like a bionic arm or something like that because he just throws and throws and throws and it never stops.
And he throws with a glove too. It's pretty impressive.
Well, I think he's trying to market the glove. If you ask me, I think he's trying to market the glove. He might even have a trademark on that glove because I do see him talking to Russ about, hey, Russ, try this glove out. Russ doesn't ever wear gloves, but Pete pushes it on him sometimes. So it's fun to see.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.